Let's get the volumes up. All right. Oh man, the sleep cycle is killing me. I just looked down at my clock. It feels like it's midnight, but it's only 9:30. The Max and Engels reader, and we're dealing with the bourgeoisie, or what's called the middle class. Which I was young, didn't realize that's what the bourgeoisie meant. I thought it just meant the upper crust, but it's really just the middle class. uh, that's why we study, that's why we learn. So, put this right here. The bourgeoisie has stripped of its halo every occupation hitherto honored and looked up to with reverent awe. It has converted the physician, the lawyer, the priest, the poet, the man of science into its paid wage laborers. And that's a shame, because a scientist should be trying to make breakthroughs, not necessarily trying to get paychecks. But as a society, we should reward the scientists making breakthroughs with paychecks. But the drive shouldn't be the paycheck. It should be the breakthrough. And I don't know why we can't do that. Well, we can do that as a society, but I don't know why even ordinary people just seem to find that either out of reach or silly. That we should have a society that incentivizes greatness or breakthroughs or development. It's weird what they've done to us. Our minds are all fucked up. The bourgeoisie has torn away from the family its sentimental veil and has reduced the family relation to a mere money relation. Fortunately, the bourgeoisie has disclosed how it came to pass that the brutal display of vigor in the Middle Ages, which reactionists so much admire, found its fitting complement in the most slothful indolence. It has been the first to show what man's activity can bring about. It has accomplished wonders far surpassing Egyptian pyramids, Roman aqueducts, and Gothic cathedrals. It has conducted expeditions that put in the shade all former exoduses of nations and crusades. The bourgeoisie cannot exist without constantly revolutionizing the instruments of production, and thereby the relations of production, and with them the whole relations of society. Conservation of the old modes of production in unaltered form was, on the contrary, the first condition of existence for all earlier industrial classes. Constant revolutionizing of production, uninterrupted disturbance of all social conditions, everlasting uncertainty and agitation distinguished the bourgeoisie epoch from all earlier ones. All fixed, fast-frozen relations with their train of ancient and venerable prejudices and opinions are swept away. All new formed ones become antiquated before they can ossify. All that is solid melts into air. All that is holy is profaned, and man is at last compelled to face with sober senses his real conditions of life and his relations with his kind. You would think a situation like that would make us closer as human beings, or at least more humane, more able to look at each other. But some of these old ideas about race, about certain ethnicities, about hierarchy itself, are kind of hard to break. And that's where we're kind of stuck now, because we're kind of trying to move out of that in a way. Even the elite don't want so many steps in between. Of course, they want to be on top, but then they want the rest to be spread out right underneath them, so that there's not all these ladders all the way down. which in the United States would break up the racial barriers. Because in the United States, the hierarchy is, of course, is wealth and class, but still, in general, white men, white women, and children. Women don't necessarily come before children. Immigrants, which try to aspire to whiteness, usually. Black women, black men on the bottom, right? And black boys, usually children, usually come, women and children are there. But once a black boy reaches a certain age, and in the United States, it could be as soon as he gets out of the third grade. So 9, 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old. He's in there with black men. Boom, on the bottom. That's the American hierarchy. And I'll tell you, I saw this when I was in the homeless shelter, big homeless shelter that processes you. White men came through there and were sent to the nicest shelter away from the rest of us. Right? We were sent to this, the hellhole, or kept in that facility. And it was a facility. That shelter, the Bellevue Men's Shelter, was as close to a prison as you can get, only we were free to leave. But then you'd be harassed on the train at that time when the mayor was doing his sweeps. I don't know if they do the sweeps anymore because the shelters are full, but the need of a constantly expanding market for its products chases, it's really noisy. Yeah, that's better. Sorry about that. It reminds me of when we were in school in the old days, and they would just, in the summer, you'd have the windows open and all kinds of stuff be going on outside, and you have to bear with the noise. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products chases the bourgeoisie over the whole surface of the globe. It must nestle everywhere, settle everywhere, establish connections everywhere. The bourgeoisie has, through its exploitation of the world market, given a cosmopolitan character to production and consumption in every country. To the great chagrin of reactionists, it has drawn from under the feet of industry the national ground on which it stood. All old established national industries have been destroyed or are daily being destroyed. They are dislodged by the new industries whose production becomes a life and death question for all civilized nations, by industries that no longer work up indigenous raw material, but raw material drawn from the remotest zones, and industries whose products are consumed not only at home, but in every quarter of the globe. In place of the old wants satisfied by the products of the country, we find new wants requiring for their satisfaction and the production of distant lands and climes. In place of the old local and national seclusion and self-sufficiency, we have intercourse in every direction, universal interdependence of nations, and as in material, so also intellectual production. The intellectual creations of individual nations become common property. National one-sidedness and narrow-mindedness become more and more impossible. And from the numerous national and local literatures, there arises a world literature. You know the weird thing, all of this happened, but the local prejudices are still there. So this is the trick where they've got us, our minds are local, but the reality is we're international. We're human race. We have to be cosmic citizens, because now, first of all, the official report says that there are extraterrestrial life forms here. Official people say, I guess, I don't know what shape they take. I don't know if they look like I don't know, but there's living among us. That's what they say. Then that doesn't. Are they life forms that are not humanoid, we don't know. But they say they're living amongst us. But regardless of that, we know that there's galaxies upon galaxies. There's other livable planets. We found some. So we should be cosmic citizens, but we still think I'm white, we're black, we're Asian, we're from South Carolina, we're from South London, we're from North Sudan, we're from, you see what I'm saying? So they've gotten us to be local psychologically, but globally in reality, we're not. So that's the bubbles that we live in. They've created these bubbles. You hear bubbles in economics, housing bubble up, but we have thought bubbles, psychological bubbles. We know that. We say people are living in a bubble. Most of us are. Most of us are. And I know most of us are because when I describe what reality is out there, and I go outside every day, take the train at least most days a week, or at least a few days a week, public transportation. And I'm telling you, when I describe what's actually out there, people say, that's not really happening. It's almost like you have to explain it to them, and then they see, or they listen to me, then go, and then the news happens, or go and then the news will start talking about it, or go, and then after I tell them, then they're looking, and they say, oh yeah, I do see it. I do see what you're saying. So try to stay out of the bubbles. Don't be a bubblehead. And try to stay safe. The natural world is waging its revolution against us, and we deserve it. But hopefully, and I don't know if I'll get to the other side, but I hope all the young people in my family, all the young people, period, get through. If the revolution has to take, let it take us, let it take the elders, let it take the Generation X and up. Definitely let it take the boomers. Until next time, take care of yourself. Oh, support the platforms. My new website, working on it every day. That's a lie, but I'm working on it every week. Got some new stuff coming up there. Got some projects coming up there. Got some programs up there. So look at it. And until next time, take care. Be safe.